What if I told you that you can access open source AI models for free without relying on ChatGPT or expensive APIs? In the next few minutes, I will explain you how to use LLM Studio to access these open source models for free. If you're into AI, you probably have heard about Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini. But what exactly is large language models? Think of it like a super smart text predictor, kind of the one that you have on your phone. For example, when you send a text in WhatsApp, you will probably see that the app will suggest you what is the word or what is the next word. But an LLM is actually more advanced. These models have read huge amounts of text from all over the internet in multiple languages. So they are actually trained to predict the next word and to talk like a human. They power everything from chatbots, content creation tools, and even business automations. But did you know that some of the best AI models are open sourced? That means that you can run them on your own machine, fine-tune them for specific tasks, and even integrate them in your business workflows. So today I'm going to walk you through LLM Studio, a tool that gives you access to the best open source models that we have available in just a few clicks. Let's dive in. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is you need to go to your browser and type lmstudio.ia, and you will land into this page. As you can see here, you will need to first download the app. There are three options. You can download it for your Mac, Windows, and Linux. And as you can see here, these are the different LLM models that you can run in your own computer, from Llama 3.2 from Meta to DeepSeek, which is the latest famous Chinese LLM model, and also QWen, which is from Alibaba. So the first thing that you need to do is to click on the download based on your operating system. So in my case, I will choose for Mac, and it will immediately download a file that you need to install in your computer. So here's the file that I just downloaded to my computer. So if I click here, you will see that a window appear where I can just drag this into my application and it will be installed. As I already did, I won't do it again, but then I will show you how the LM Studio looks like. So after you install LM Studio and you open it, this is what you are going to find. I already have some chats that I'm using, but if you open this for the first time, the only thing that you need to do is to go to the magnifying glass here, and then you will need to install the LLM model that you want to use. And here you can see a lot of options. So let me explain you a little bit about the differences between the different LLM models. The one that I chose for this video is the QWen, which has been developed by Alibaba, and it's, as I mentioned, completely open source. We also have DeepSeek, we have Pi 4 from Microsoft, and we also have Llama from Meta. You will see all the parameters of these models. Some of the models have been optimized for speed, and other models have been optimized for accuracy. So it depends on different models. But if you want something that is closer to ChatGPT, you can use Mistral, or you can actually use Llama. Pi 4 is also a very good model developed by Microsoft, so you can actually also use that as well. Here, it already recommends you the model that, or the version of the model that you need to install based on your operating system. So if you're on a latest Mac, you probably can run one of the latest models. If you have an older computer, it will probably recommend you a model that is more suited for your operating system. But here, for example, let's choose Pi. These are the parameters that the model has been trained on. So 14 billion parameters. So that means that it has a lot of information that has been trained on, probably information from the internet, a lot of books and things like that, articles, etc. So the more parameters that you have, it means that it has been trained on more data, and it's probably a little bit more accurate. Let's use now, I mean, everybody's talking about DeepSeek. It has been trained on 7 billion parameters, a little bit less than Pi, but it's still good enough. One thing that it's important to take into account is this technical details that a lot of people don't realize, but they are important, especially this context length. So this is basically the amount of information that you can actually feed into the model and that the model can use as information to give you responses. So for example, if you give the model a book and ask the model to summarize the book, then the length of the book needs to meet these requirements. And we're talking here about tokens. Before we start interacting with the model, let's talk a little bit about tokens. A token is basically a piece of text. It could be a word, a character, a part of a word. Think about like a Lego brick. each word you type gets broken down into smaller pieces called tokens that the AI process to understand and generate the responses. For example, in the sentence, hello, how are you? The model might split the sentence between hello, how, and then are you. So in that case and in that example, there are 3 tokens. This helps the model process text efficiently and generate accurate answers. So let's compare a couple of models. So in the case of DeepSeek, it has a context length of 128,000 tokens. If we compare this to Qwen from Alibaba, it has 1 million tokens. That's a very big difference. To give you an example, more or less, a book that has 600 pages, which I'm going to show you in a minute, has around 1 million tokens. So if you want to use it for small articles or creating, for example, blogs, I think it's enough to use DeepSeek. You can actually also use Pi4. It actually allows you only 16K tokens, a little bit less, but for most of the day-to-day tasks, it's enough. If you compare this to Gemini, for example, the context that Gemini allows is around 2 million tokens. So for now, let's go with Qwen. I already have this installed. One thing to mention before that I forget is you can actually click here in the drop-down menu and you have more models that you can actually download. This is the one that was recommended to me, download and install. The only difference when you actually install this model is that instead of saying here use in a new chat, it just says download. And once download is completed, you can just use the model. But here you can actually choose other models. And for example, this one, which is the Q8, it says likely too large for this machine. So it actually requires more memory, so it won't work as well. So once you download, you can actually start using the model. So let's dive into some examples. So I have already one here. One of the most powerful things that you can do with these models is actually attach one of the documents. So for example, I attached The Intelligent Investor, which is one of my favorite books, and it has a lot of learnings. So I want something that will allow me to extract those learnings and make sure that I can use and I can actually chat with the book. This book has more than 600 pages, and in the case of Qwen, it can handle it quite easily. Bear in mind that when you upload the document, it will take some time for the model to upload it, but it's not that long. It's less than 2 minutes. After that, you can actually chat with it. So I ask, for example, provide me with a summary of this book, and then if it gives me already an answer. You can also, for example, ask, give me the main 10 learnings from this book so that I can improve my investment skills. And it will start processing the information. As you can see, it's probably not as fast as ChatGPT when you actually pay for it, but in any case, it will basically process the prompt for some time, and then it will give you a response, and it's not that long. So here it is, understand market history and patterns. As you can see, it starts writing, differentiate between investment and speculating, and so on and so forth. It will just give an answer on the 10 learnings that I just asked. So here it is. As you can see, the response of the model is very similar to what you can find in ChatGPT or any other models. It's the only difference that is free. The other biggest difference is if I go a little bit up, is that when you actually upload this book, this data doesn't go anywhere. It stays in your own computer. So if, for example, you want to use this for your own business and you want to upload financial statement, for example, and ask them to summarize the financial statement, the data stays within your computer and is within your control. So it doesn't go anywhere and the model does not use it to train. So that's a very powerful and a very good advantage of running models in your own computer. Let's try something else. So here you can actually open a new chat. You can actually give it a name as well if you want. So we can call it test, and we can ask different things. So we can actually say, give me 5 startup ideas that I can invest $100. And then as you can see, it will start generating ideas. So you can actually use this for anything that you want on your business and your day-to-day life without actually paying anything for it. Let's run through another example. It's very good to write code snippets. So if you are a developer, If you are a data analyst and you start working with SQL or Python, you can actually ask to write some code for you. For example, you can just ask, give me SQL code that I can use to join two tables of data. Very simple query, but let's see what the LLM can come up with. Bear in mind that every time that you probably ask the LLM question, if it is the same question, it will probably give you different answers. In this case, it's coming up with an example based on two tables that it came up with. And here is basically gives you the code. What you also can do is upload the Excel files or the Google Sheets, and it will create the SQL code for you. That's basically the most powerful things that the model can do. Bear in mind that you can just play with it, test it. So I invite you to do that. Now that we have seen the benefits of using LM Studios and mainly open source models, let's talk about the disadvantages of using these open source models that are directly into your desktop and not in the cloud. One of the main things is that you cannot access the internet. So if you give them a URL, the model cannot go into the internet and scrape the data. You will actually need to fit in the actual article that you find on that website. The second thing is that it cannot generate images. So if you think about ChatGPT and their model DALL-E, it can generate images, this cannot. And the third thing is that it cannot do complex things like, for example, Claude can actually generate a dashboard with your data. In the case of these models, it cannot do that. However, for the majority of the day-to-day tasks and for small businesses is a great option. And before we close the video, let's talk about some pro tips that I can give you to use LM Studio. One is make sure that you teach the model with your own data. As I mentioned multiple times, this data doesn't go anywhere. So it stays within your desktop and it stays within the model. So the benefit of that is that you can actually fit any type of information. So for example, if you want to generate blogs in the same way that, or in the same tone and a language that you have done in the past, you can actually feed models with your own blogs. And it can actually learn from the style, the type of language that you use. It can actually write in multiple languages, in Spanish, in Chinese, in Italian, or any other language. But it will actually do it based on the previous blogs that you have shared with the model. And the second tip is use prompt engineering. I'm not going to dive into the details of prompt engineering. Probably I will do another video on this because it's quite extensive. But make sure that you also use prompt engineering when you are chatting with the model. The examples I gave you are very simple, but when you want to create more complex tasks like creating a blog, you will need to give more instructions. So I will do a separate video on prompt engineering. Now that you know how to use LM Studio, it's time to put it into action. Which open source model are you most excited to try? Drop a comment below and let me know. Also, if you found this useful, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on more AI automation tips.